recently there's been some drama in regards to one of their most popular English speaking talents, Ceres Fauna, leaving due to differences in managerial disagreements, so to speak. And let's just say a lot of people were very upset and doom scrolling on the internet about this. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I've never watched her stuff because I don't like watching like streamers, period, to be honest.
I kind of watch streamers, but typically I watch clips of streamers.
Yeah, that tends to be the case too, yeah. But essentially, Cover Corp went public last year, and people are starting to notice some changes in regards to that. So, concerns about should content creators be under like a corporate umbrella?
I think it's a bad idea if you're trying to protect your brand and you're trying to build brand up and you don't, and the whole point of doing this type of stuff is to have independence and to have build a business, do all those other things. That's like, I like collectives where we work together to do stuff like this podcast, or to work together to do a single thing that people can exit and come in and out of easily, and more or less grow together in a very collective community based way. But when you start putting this type of stuff in, it will eventually corrupt. And we've seen it in YouTube world time and time again, right? Content creators having to buy back their channels, being a part of groups and stuff. I can't remember what the name of the groups, what they were called, but there's been plenty of massive
MCNs?
MCNs, yes.
Yeah, so funny story. Yeah, Linus Tech Tips actually started out much the same way too. They had to buy back their channel brand from NCIX, and they were better off for it too, because NCIX is gone now. Yet Linus Tech Tips remains, and he himself.
Fair, with that whole story though, they seemed fairly supportive, and they didn't really believe in it, and so he was able to start it because of them. I think for that thing, that's a little different. Like, he was able to start it and get to where he was because they actually helped him out. And I like that story. There could be more drama that I'm maybe missing out on that. But, and he did buy it from them, which is, I can't remember if it wasn't that expensive. So, I don't know. That's a very interesting story.
Dave, maybe maybe we should get Linus or Luke on this channel.
There's no Luke, I guarantee you I could probably talk Luke into it, because I could get to him on the technical side of like programmer to programmer kind of thing, but I don't know about Linus.
True enough. Fair enough. But yeah, I think content creator like corporations, well, there's two kinds, I think. There's OTK, which is like an organization owned and run by content creators like Ms. Kiff, Asmongold, Emiru, Moist Critical, and then you have companies like Cover Corp.
Oh, that's right.
Cover Corp, who is not owned or ran by any of the VTubers that are most famous, and is run by a bunch of Japanese suits, but so to speak. And
so I think it sounds like a nightmare. I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like a fucking nightmare.
It does, and and I don't think I would ever. Like, not saying they would ever give me the time of day, but I don't know if I would ever go through with that unless they paid me like a shitload of money.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I'm okay with people like, because I don't think people understand. Sometimes people are like, oh, sellouts and all. When your livelihood's on the out to play, like, if you're gonna make enough money to like quit your job, do this full time, and enjoy it more than what you were doing before, then do it. If you don't feel like you want to sign up for that corporate life for a while, because you could eventually exit or have an exit plan in play, then do your own thing. That's just how it is. The world's not perfect, and sometimes, dude, but people get hate, man. People get so much hate for selling out and doing all their stuff, but a lot of people are just here to survive. I'm very much like that. I like that in the sense of like, not me personally, but like, I think people get a little too hung up, and that's one of the problems of content creators and this symbiotic relationship kind of stuff, these parasocial relationships, right? Not symbiotic, but para relationships can be a little damaging at times too. Um, the OTK one is the one that doesn't bother me. Phase is kind of an interesting one.
I mean, I think FaZe used to be like a gamer clan, and now they're just like
Yeah,
a gamer house, so to speak.
they're like a gamer house, but it feels like a gamer clique, and I'm not here for it. OTK feels a little different, but some of the content creators on there have gotten on my nerves lately. So,
Oh yeah, like who?
Asmongold. he's a fun ride, but he did do an apology video. I think he did a pretty good job with that. But he's a fun ride because of freaking such a mess he is. He is the quintessential World of Warcraft content creator. If you've seen South Park's freaking, like, he's not heavy like that dude from his South Park, but if you've seen South Park's World of Warcraft episode, that's Asmongold in some way, except for works.
Lord.
Like he has had cockroaches, like everything, but he at least is cleaned up now. But there is no way that dude has so many followers, and I don't know what he's doing to like the youth growing up, but I think he tries his best to be a good role model. You're getting me in. I'm sorry, I'm getting into this whole, but man, he is such a messy dude.
You know, you would think that he could just hire someone to clean up for him like every month, like once a month.
He does. I think he hires someone, but it's not very often. That's my problem. He's like Smog. He hoards this wealth, and I don't think he does it on purpose. I think he's just a single-minded kind of dude, which is fine, I guess, but it's not healthy, and it's very much. He's, I think, a quintessential person that needs help, mental health and health. Everyone needs mental health help and stuff like that. I think everyone in the world, but he's it's kind of one of those things where it's fun to watch until you really realize what's kind of potentially going on and maybe how he's interesting. I'll put it down as that, and I like to study him. But beyond that, I really hope people don't go down that path of living that way. Because
I understand. I mean, like, I think part of it has to do with just how he grew up. Like, I'm not talking about the mess situation. I'm talking about him not using his money. Like, he's a multimillionaire probably, but like he doesn't really use it. And I guess, and part of it is like, I don't know him personally. I'm not going to claim I do, but I would imagine part of it was like he grew up in like a lower like income household, and as such, he's not used to like having all of this money, and he's still like living based on like what he knows from like his childhood. Because I kind of empathize with that a little bit. I can kind of empathize with that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I get that. I have my mannerisms from how I was raised too, but I there's certain, like, it's not healthy to not get out of those things, in my opinion. To like, you can definitely tell that he has some baggage and some stuff from his youth, and a lot of people do. And I'm very sympathetic, but I also say, you got to get help at one point, because it's just both detrimental to your mental health and your health, your physical health, to not do that. And I just don't know, like, how he's even making it to this point, because he's got some major medical issues just from his gums bleeding. Like, I follow him enough because it's fascinating, but it makes me sad too at the same time. And so I'm sorry I'm going on this whole rant thing, but like, just being a dad has changed my mindset on a lot of this stuff even more. And the amount of so I've streamed, and I've had to talk to a lot of people, and I've had to parent so much in like Discord and people doing this thing, that I'm just like shocked. And I get into this like parent mode. That's why I'm talking about this.
Yeah, I understand, man. I understand. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Anyways, corporate content creation. I'm not a fan of the idea of these big organizations of like content creators that aren't owned by content creators.
Right.
Like,
I think it's a collective. I think that's fine. Like OTK, I think is good enough, right? I have a lot of hope for what's his face?
Moist Critical.
Moist Critical. I quite like him. I think he's got a solid head on his shoulders. So.
Oh yeah, he's a smart guy. He's a lot smarter than he like lets on, obviously.
No, I think he's down to earth. Like every time I've seen him in different things, like that's the thing I like to see is people like him. So, plus, yeah, I love some of his collabs too. So, yeah, I mean, this is an interesting topic. I don't know how much people like listeners care, but content creation is going to be continue to grow as jobs are offset and we get into more entertainment and more of an industry that's like this. AI is taking over a lot of other things. Content creation is probably going to be growing. So this is not going to be a dying thing, and it's not bad to have content creators. What's bad is having toxic content creators and having these groups that come together and then become toxic, either because they have group think or like a collective thought of doing like just stupid things. That's a lot of stupid content creators go over and do stupid things like in Japan and stuff like that. Or they get caught up in their like prank stuff and all other stuff. I'm hoping that stuff dies. But the corporate ones are just as bad as you're essentially giving them money to then control your life, and you're almost like you have contracts where you could lose everything. You have contracts you have to fulfill, that is. So it's very, I don't think people understand sometimes, and they're not very generous to people's plights. Even if they make a lot of money, sometimes they get stuck in very, very crappy situations. There's been multiple content creators over the years that have just been in really rough situations because of this.
Well, I mean, hopefully, I think a lot of content creators. Well, like let's go back to the HoloLive example. Like the what was her face? Ceres Fauna had a previous life, and they call them previous life, but it's really just what they were before they became HoloLivers. And a lot of her followers went to her like previous channel that she did independently, and her subscription count jumped like quadrupled in count. It went from like 50k to like almost 300k. So actually, that's more than triple, right?
That's so triple. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a good jumping off point. If people know who you are in a corporation and you leave, then you have a pretty good chance of making it like on your own. Like obviously, you don't have a lot of the corporate support or like the connections or whatever, but you can still. And
some people almost need that. Some people need assistance. Some people need help because, like, for me, like alone, it's really hard for me to like when I'm in creating script mode. I'm in script mode. It's really hard for me to then switch over to record mode and then over to edit modes. It's really hard for me to get through each one of those. That's why I don't release as much these days. It's hard for me to get into these modes these days. And so having a corporate, and these are streamers, of course. So even streaming, setting up collabs, setting up going to events, setting up all the stuff usually is taken care of by the corporations, and they don't have to think about things as much. So for some people, it might be good for them for a good long while to maybe build up a brand and then be able to break off. It's not a bad thing. It's just, it does get very scummy after a while, especially if there's hostages or if there's like non-compete where they can't go and create their own brand afterwards, or they try to control their brand. There's a lot of usually scummy things that kind of are the underlying thing of this. So.
Yeah, I agree too. I think in cases like where you break off by yourself, once you've built up the like support, you could probably afford to hire a secretary that does all of that for you. Like all the business deals, all of the collabs, like in answering emails that you probably don't have time to answer yourself. Well, yeah,
you can, but you might not own your brand though. You do have to rebrand kind of. So that's another danger that tends to happen.
But I think in like these, but I do think in like these really like, I hate to interrupt you again, but like in these really,
I'm done.
Yeah. Anyways, I think the general point is corporations bad, individuals good.